Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful idea, how we can get past just throwing data at problems and start building systems that create real, tangible economic dignity. We're going to look at this specifically through the lens of Black economic mobility. So let's get right into it.
So let's start with this big central question. Think about it. We are swimming in information, right? Educational content, financial advice, it's everywhere, more than ever before. And the big promise was that all this access would finally level the playing field. But if you look at the numbers, the economic gap for African Americans just hasn't closed. So what's going on? And here is the core argument we're exploring today. This isn't some unsolvable mystery. It's not a paradox. It's a flaw in the design. The whole way we've been thinking about information equity, it's been built on a faulty foundation. It's not about the amount of info, it's about the system it's delivered in.
Okay, so first we have to pull apart what we might call the myth of access. This is the problem we thought we were solving. For years, the idea was pretty simple. If we just give people access, the rest will take care of itself. And on the surface, this makes a lot of sense. The game plan was, let's get broadband into every home, put all the best courses and content online, make financial tips easy to find. The assumption was that access itself was the magic key that would unlock a ton of economic opportunity. But when we look at the actual outcomes, the story is just, well, it's frustrating. Even with all that access, the big income and wealth gaps are still there. We're seeing credential inflation, where a degree doesn't get you as far as it used to. And getting access to capital, the money to start a business or build wealth, that's still a huge hurdle. So the bottom line is, access by itself just wasn't the answer. In fact, what can happen is that information without a clear path forward can actually create this vicious cycle. It starts with awareness, you learn about an opportunity, but then you realize there's no clear way to act on it. That awareness pretty quickly turns into frustration because the system feels impossible to navigate. And eventually, you just check out, you disengage. It's a cycle that just keeps things stuck. So if access was the wrong way to frame the problem, what's the right one? Well, this brings us to a whole new framework, a really important shift in thinking, from just providing data to actively building dignity. Now, dignity can sound kind of fuzzy, right? But in this context, it's defined in really concrete economic ways. And what's so powerful here is how it's broken down. Economic dignity means having real decision-making power, seeing a clear, predictable path to making a living, gaining skills that you can take anywhere, and having control over your own work and your own time. It's all about agency. And this slide just nails the shift. We have to stop thinking about the goal as equal access to content, like a giant public library, and start focusing on equal access to usable intelligence. This is such a critical difference. It's like the difference between just having a cookbook and having a fully stocked kitchen with someone showing you how to actually make the meal. Okay, so if the goal is usable intelligence, then what's the secret ingredient? What makes it all work? Well, that brings us to this idea of applied knowledge. This is the thing that really multiplies the value of information. So what makes applied knowledge different from just random facts? 3 key things. First, it's contextual. It's not generic advice. It's knowledge that's tied directly to a specific industry or a real market. Second, it's sequential. It gives you a clear step-by-step path from learning to actually doing. And finally, and this is huge, it creates feedback loops. You take an action, you see a real result, and that builds your confidence and helps you get better. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures why the old model failed. For too long, we've been giving people knowledge that informs them about what's out there, but we haven't given them the tools and systems to actually use that knowledge to transform their lives. So how do we start building for applied knowledge? This is where a really cool metaphor comes in. We need to start treating information less like disposable content and more like permanent infrastructure. Seriously, think about it like roads or the electrical grid. This table breaks it down perfectly. Content is made to be looked at, to be consumed. It creates awareness, but that's often temporary. Infrastructure, on the other hand, is built to be used. Its whole purpose is to give you reliable, repeatable results, and its value actually grows and compounds over time. That's the kind of information system we need. And that gets to the heart of it. A single inspiring story is great, but you can't build an economy on inspiration alone. Real economic dignity comes from reliability, from knowing that if you follow a certain path, you can count on a certain outcome. It's that predictability that builds real, lasting power. So, this all points to a massive call to action for our leaders and institutions. We have to make a big structural shift, stop just creating temporary programs, and start building permanent, lasting systems. Let's be real about the difference. We've all seen programs, right? They're usually tied to a grant, they last for a little while, and then when the money runs out or the media moves on, poof, they're gone. Systems are different. They get embedded into the community, they learn, they adapt based on feedback, and they just keep on creating value year after year. This completely reframes the job for anybody in a leadership role. The question is no longer just, how do we hand out more stuff? The real strategic question we should be asking is, how do we design an entire environment, an ecosystem, where applying knowledge isn't just an option? It's the most natural, inevitable thing to do. And really, this all boils down to one ultimate goal. It's not just about information, it's not even just about jobs. It's about building agency, giving people the genuine power to be the architects of their own economic futures. So, as we wrap this up, this is the main thing to remember. Looking forward, the future of economic mobility, especially for Black communities, is not going to be decided by how many terabytes of data we have access to. Nope. It's going to be decided by how much of that information can be applied. That's the whole game. The ability to take knowledge and put it to work to get a predictable result, that is the real engine for change. And I'll leave you with this final thought. It's simple, but it's everything. Data informs us, and that's a good start. But it's dignity, built on a foundation of reliability, agency, and applied knowledge that truly transforms lives.